We're here. And it's recording.
We figured it out.
So for anybody that missed it, yesterday we tried to go live at 6 p.m. on Facebook to do confessions of a prep coach, and we failed miserably. The audio was horrible. We didn't get into the content that we wanted to get into. I ended up just rambling, and it was a big hot mess. So we're doing it again, and we're going to start from the beginning. We're going to just clear the space. We're clearing the space. So this is my good friend Lori Mork. Lori has been a coach in the fitness industry for almost 3 decades. I've known Lori for 12 years at least now. We used to compete together in figure, and I didn't know this, but we also competed together in fitness competitions back in the day. We've had similar coaches, same coaches when we were competing. And we have both been on this metabolism movement among the fitness community for a really long time based on our own experience as competitors and coaches. So I'll let Lori introduce herself to you, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about my story and why we're having so much passion about this and moving forward with Confessions of a Prep Coach. Your turn.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad we got this working. So teaching old girls new tricks, that's for sure, with technology. Yeah, I've been competing. So I retired in 2009, but I competed for 12 years and probably 20-ish competitions. I started in fitness when figure didn't exist back in 1997. When a lot of people weren't even born yet. Most of my clients weren't even born yet. And that was in Ontario. And 2002, they brought in the new figure category. And that was perfect for a gal like me who was very tall and not a gymnast and not a natural dancer, or it was painful fitness for me. So figure was perfect because I could bring the physique. And I had been working out since I was in my early teens, put in the time. Lots of old school bodybuilders kind of paved the way for me and took me under their wing, and off I went to stage and didn't look back. I started prepping competitors myself in 2005-ish, around there, so almost 15 years. And from there, just had a massive team, hundreds and hundreds of women and men to stage, and have been doing it ever since.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, I started coaching competitors a little bit earlier than you, about 2001. And for me, it was a little bit different in that I didn't intentionally go to coach competitors. I already had a job. I was working holistic nutrition, supplements, management, business, and I happened to just be a really good fitness competitor, and people wanted to know my tricks and be trained by me. So that's kind of how I got into it. I had been doing personal training and group fitness since I was 16 years old. So it's not like I didn't have any knowledge within the fitness industry, but when it came to diet and competition prep, like I was fresh out of water. And essentially what I was doing was I was taking my 8x11 and I was regurgitating it out. And lucky for me, and probably not lucky for my clients, I was successful. My clients were winning. The first client I ever had was a good friend of mine, and she went in and she won the overall for both of her shows, won provincial overall. So for fitness, and then it just kind of became this thing after that. Like it just continued, and before you knew it, like I had more and more competitors. So I was doing that while I was also working full time. It was a bit of it all, right? So for me, it was a little bit different in that it was never something that I did in this full-time capacity until 2013. I was coaching girls. I had probably like 30, 40 women that I had put on stage by the time I opened up my business. But when I opened my business in 2013, as you know, Lori, I wanted nothing to do with competition prep. And based on, you and I have had so many conversations about what happened to our bodies, what happened to our lifestyle, our heads after competing. And I think like we both have had similar experiences with huge metabolic adaptation, huge mental and physical rebounds. And I was just like, I was a new mom. My daughter was like a year old. She's battling her own health conditions. I wanted to empower her to be very confident young lady, and I didn't want her to be involved in this part of the industry. And yet within, like, 3 or 4 months of starting my business, the competitors started to trickle in. And because in my head, and I think you can appreciate this as well, and I think this is where you're at right now, is, well, if I don't help them, somebody else is going to help them, and it's going to go down a nasty path, because I know that path. And it's like, you and I have talked about this endless times, but it's like, when you've seen it play out, you can see it coming from a mile away. And it's like, I'll let you like just describe it, but what does it look like when these girls are going down the rabbit hole? What is, like, give me like the screenshot of like what you see as a coach when it's going sideways and quick.
Well, I mean, it's that obsession. It consumes your life. And I think it goes from being a hobby and fun
Yeah.
to being grueling. And I mean, we're seeing it on social media right now, the complaints of dying. I'm dying and
Yeah.
being rewarded for it. I feel like death. You know, I crashed my car because I'm on such low carbs and I'm just dying. And it's like we're rewarding these women or men
Mhm.
for being in pain and suffering. And it's that scars to prove it. And you can see women that don't even have eating disorder issues, because I never had that severe of eating disorder issues, but it becomes a form of disordered eating. So
Right.
it's not necessarily anorexia, it's not necessarily bulimia, but it becomes that obsession with food, obsession with calories burned, obsession with everything, glutathions, and it just starts to consume the life. And people don't want to be around that person, and they can't function at work, and it just becomes everything on their social media. You see, it's ever consuming,
And
and
it is,
you
yeah.
know
Yeah, you
it.
can see it. Like, you and I have both been there. We've both been like, I think when you've had that experience and you know how it feels, and as empathic humans, you just like can attach that emotion. Like, you see that girl on social media talking about her body composition nonstop, and one day she's really fine, and then the next day she's not fine, and then one day her relationship with food is perfect, and then it's like hell in a handbasket, and oh my gosh, I have a disorder. And it's like this flip flopping back and forth. And what these girls don't understand is that what's happening to them at a biological level is beyond their control. So every time they say to themselves, like, well, I'll just do another prep and it's going to be different this time. What they're not understanding is that to make it different, you have to approach it different. The application has to be different. And unfortunately, the subculture sucks you into the belief that belonging is more important than your integrity. Belonging is more important than your health. Belonging is more important than knowing thyself. In fact, it gives you an identity. And for a lot of women who are seeking something in their life, it gives you control, it gives you validation, it gives you a sense of belonging. And what they don't understand is, once they belong, that's where it really gets crooked, because that belonging is not based on you as a human being, you being a good person, you showing up every day for your life. It's about, how much more can I take for myself? How much more can I suffer? I mean, we've got coaches out there, girls are spending mortgage payments on to pay for political gain, or to say they work with that coach. And yet the proof in the pudding is their bodies are failing them, but they're still going to pay that money because it gives them that sense of belonging, not because the application is going to give them a better result. Anybody can take someone and cardio the crap out of them, throw them on drugs, which we'll talk about more, starve them. You see these girls in their off season talking about starvation. I think like we've just become so backwards on what fitness is supposed to be in someone's life, and the competition industry feeds into that. So like, I'm glad that you're going to continue coaching competitors, because we do need to have people in there that are still trying to pave a better path. But I think that the knowledge and the education and the outspokenness needs to be there as well, because you and I both see it. it is such an amount of bullshit that is transmuting into the industry. And it's turning these women, because I work with women, they're not able to hold a job. They can't even work. Like they're not able to function in society. They're destroying their relationships. Their hormonal profiles are screwed. When we talk about metabolic rebounds, I've been working with women for almost a decade in metabolic adaptation, and I have seen catastrophic rebounds from women that people put on a pinnacle for their success. Like we're going all the way to the Olympia stage with this, and they are in these hormonal apocalypses from what they've done to their bodies. And I get it. You have that goal, you want to achieve it, but you also have to think of the long term. Like for this 16 weeks of this prep, am I going to spend 2 years in a body and a mind that I am totally chaotic in? I can't leave the house. I don't, and like, I'm not making this up. We're talking about women who cannot live their lives without a contest date, without knowing that the carrot's going to be dangled. They can't even put on a bathing suit and go to the pool with their kids. Like, this is fitness now, and it's mainstream, and it's big, big bucks, and girls are buying into it, and they don't really know what they're getting themselves into.
They think of the now, they think of that stage, they don't think of the after. And I mean, coaches, I see it all the time where I'll say to a girl, you're not going to be ready. And she goes to the coach down the street that puts her on the diet anyway. They want it now. They see the moment. It's not something we think about what's going to happen after, right? Doesn't matter what's going to happen after, even though it's just a shit storm after, right? So
Exactly. And the biology of weight control is, I mean, people want to think they're smarter than their bodies. And our bodies are meant to keep us alive. So when we're talking about, alarm bells going off in the body versus, like, let's just say you cut your calories drastically, your energy output shifts dramatically. Your body's built to save you from harm. It doesn't know if that harm is because you cut your calories or someone's trying to come into your house with a knife. So the physiological response in the body, which is then in the brain, is the same. And that's why we see women who are the kindest, sweetest girls become drama queens and Cruella de Vil's in their contest prep and unable to cope. We see women who come into this with mental health issues exasperate their mental health issues due to this biology of weight control and how the brain interacts with the body when it senses danger. So, like, we're not talking about taking this lightly. You're coming into this with eating disorders, depression, anxiety, and you think that because while you're in that moment, it's all in control. It's not. It's like, you get this little compensated state of time where it feels okay, and then it's not going to be okay. And like, we see that happening. We see these catastrophic rebounds. I've seen women with 80, 100-pound rebounds post contest from like extreme deprivation, from coaches that are telling them, just keep going, do another show, take this drug, take that drug. Like, Lori, what are the drugs that these girls in, like, let's talk about the drug culture for like just a second and what's really happening for young women, like women who have not even had children yet and are like, don't even know. It used to be like back in our day, in the early day, like, be some bro at the gym and he's a big dude and he sees you working out and he'll say, hey, you want to take a little Winnie? That'll help you out. And then you're like, what's Winnie? And then you see these girls and they start taking Winnie and their voices change and it becomes hell in a handbasket. And you're like, oh, the transformation happened. But now the transformation happening is not happening so visual anymore. So what is happening with these girls?
well, it's because they didn't just find the anabolic steroids. So they've found so many other ways to manipulate. Like, again, none of this existed for us. And luckily, when I was in the culture, I had so many kind of older female bodybuilders that were there to say, don't do this. This is what I did. And this is what happened to me.
Don't
There was
look
more
like me.
don't don't grow a penis. Like, I'm going to show you what it looks like if you take that. And so we shared a little bit more and there was more protection.
Yeah,
But there wasn't, anti-estrogens weren't happening. So we didn't know about any of that. So it wasn't that we were stopping, and this isn't just slowing down estrogen production. This is complete estrogen blocking
I know.
for a female.
Yeah.
You know, clenbuterol, we didn't see the use. I mean, ephedrine, I think, was the biggest thing that we saw women taking back in our day. I mean, people dropped dead of heart attacks of that just from one time of taking it,
Yeah.
taking too much. T3, T3 and even T4 I'm seeing now, which you and I are both on thyroid medications for actual thyroid disorders. We're
Yeah.
seeing people that have completely regular functioning hormones
Yeah.
taking insane amounts of T3 to lose weight.
Yep, there's a lot going on that these girls are being told, and I think this is the part that really frustrates me because again, I'm like you. Back in the day, I'm in the gym culture. It's this underground society. I One of my very first mentors in bodybuilding was a natural female bodybuilder, and she was always like pushing to me like don't use anything, don't do it, blah blah blah. So that was good. I had other girlfriends, one really good girlfriend within the industry who turned pro as a female bodybuilder. And I got to see her science experiment. And she would say to me, like, this or that. Like, I was able to see it. Now, that didn't stop me from experimenting. And I'm not going to like come on here and bullshit anybody and say that. Like, I used clenbuterol for the first time I went to nationals, but I didn't know what I was doing with it. And I think, like, back in the day, it was a little bit more insidious and that people didn't really know what they were doing. There was a couple people here or there that are doing it. And now it's like, if you don't use these supplements, like, and I always call it like the bikini arsenal package, and it's like, here's your bikini prep. Train glutes only, do a little bit of shoulders, do cardio up the yin yang, deplete the crap out of your body so your calories go really, really low. We'll keep your carbohydrates in, so we pretend that we're not cutting your carbs, but we'll keep your fat super low so you feel like crap. I'm going to give you clenbuterol. I'm going to give you T3. I'm going to give you Novodex because you're really going to like how your lower body looks with that. We're going to give you SARMs, which we still don't have long-term testing on what happens to the mutation of the genes from SARMs. And if you're really a hard gainer, we're going to throw in a little underground anavar at you. And that anavar, which I like, this part blows my mind. So legit pharmaceutical anavar has not been on the market for almost 2 decades. Like, it's been a really long time. Like, don't quote me on that, but it's been a really long time. And I've used the anavar before, and it was underground anavar going back like 12 years ago. So it's only become more mainstream to have people, chemists, having their own little Breaking Bad in their basement where they're creating drugs, which in men is far more forgiving than it is in women. So what we're seeing happening with anavar, which real legit anavar used to not cause water retention, conversion to DHT. We weren't seeing those problems existing from anavar, or even what's the other one that people used to inject with that starts with a P? Wasn't Winstrol?
Primo.
Primo. Okay, Primo was the big one back in the 80s and the 90s, right? But now it's just like anavar, SARMs, and all this like bikini arsenal. But anavar, what we're seeing happening is we're seeing these girls that are having these conversions. We're seeing the water retention, the 10, 15 pounds of water weight. We're seeing the crazy acne. We're seeing the hormonal disruption. And so, like, it's very mainstream. It's like, here, go to your supplement store, get your pre-workout, get your BCAAs, get your anavar, get your SARMs, get your Novodex, get your Clen, get your T3. And at the end of this, you yourself can have a catastrophic rebound with your trophy and hide out for the rest of the year. So, like, to me, this is a problem. This is a big problem. And that's a big reason why I don't want to be on board with putting these girls through that 12, 16-week window of what I call in my head crazy making.
Yeah. It's you know what it is too. It's that most of the louder coaches are the ones that are telling them to do it, and no one's asking questions. Like,
Yes.
Can I still get to stage and do this without all of that? This weird guy that I'm buying it from on the street, is it legitimate what I'm buying? Because no one asks those questions either. You're not buying Anavar. You're not. You're getting Deca, you're getting D-bol, you're getting chemical shitstorms of garbage
You are.
that you're putting into your body. But I don't think any of these people or women are questioning, do I really need it? Because there's a lot of people that get to stage without doing it. It's just that monkey see, monkey do mentality of, well, this coach must know what he's doing. All of his other girls must be doing it. So I'm going to do it too. I don't want to be the one questioning. Robotically, I'm just going to do it because there can't be a better way, right? Like this has got to be the only way.
Well, and it's not riding the patient's pony, right?
Mhm.
So this is a big problem that we see is we've got young women because it is such a, especially I'm going to use the bikini category just because it's so mainstream, right? You look at it and you think, wow, that's hot. Okay. I know someone who actually calls it the hot category, right? I judged the very first bikini competition BC ever had. Like I sat on the panel, helped decide what the look and the standard was. And it is so evolved from where it once was that girls think that this is a mainstream look. It's not a mainstream look. Majority of women do not carry low body fat, that they have that natural glute hamstring tie-in with no hamstrings, no quads, just glutes, tiny tapering waist. Like it's not a mainstream look. So to achieve that, right, takes a lot of time of chipping away. If you have, let's just say you're a little bit more muscular up top, you have to chip away at that. Let's just say you're a little bit more muscular in the lower half. You got to chip away at that. Let's just say your glutes have to come out. You got to chip away at that. The bikini category is actually quite complex. It's just that it really appeals to the mainstream. And so we've got these young women and these older women that love this look, want the look, but they don't want to ride the patient's pony because that's not going to give them the validation that they need. Like when we were competing, and like, yeah, we're a couple old ladies now, but like you used to have to wait an entire year before you could step back on stage. Now you have an opportunity to compete 6, 8, 10 times a year if you desire. And girls are. They are doing it and they're putting their bodies through it over and over and over again in pursuit of a pro card, a trophy, a qualification, whatever it may be that is that carrot dangling for them. They're not riding that patient's pony and it is not paying off with their health, especially their mental health too. Like you really see it online and it's disturbing what is happening to the women. And like let's talk about what it means to get to the top. And I've coached girls on the pro level, I in figure and bikini, and it's you have as well, Laura. You coached the very first bikini pro Canada ever had. So let's talk about what being a pro means. What does it mean to be a pro?
I mean, I think years ago it meant a little bit more than what it means now because years ago there was very little pros. I mean, I could list every figure pro on my fingers at one point.
Yeah.
So, there were sponsorships, there were incomes to be made. Were they huge? Not really, because again, we can talk about how poor, most of us were as figure competitors.
Yeah.
But there was sponsorship opportunities. There's not anymore. Once the UFC came in, that engulfed a lot of the supplement company sponsorships.
Mm-hmm.
There's not money to be made anymore like there used to be. Because I mean, there's thousands and tens of thousands of pros. Add bikini into that, and there's hundreds of thousands. So you're just a dime a dozen as a pro. So when you get to the pro level, you not only are you paying $400 American for your membership, you're traveling all over the place, costly. It's not being paid for anymore for you. So that's out of your own pocket.
Yeah.
You're not one of the 10 top pros showing up at the Olympia because it used to always be the same exact pros at the big shows. And now you've got a dime a dozen. There's so many different ones. So you're just another, really, you're a pro. I didn't realize that because there's so many.
Yeah.
So you're not really, and then you're getting to the pro level. And I went to the Arnold in Spain with one of my pro figure competitors. And you're seeing the politics involved, at it, where you're bringing your best physique as a pro.
Yeah.
But because you're not in with the inner circle of the IFBB, and you know who they are because they're eating breakfast with all of the judges. They're dating the judge's son or whatever it might
Yeah.
be, and they're the top it girls that you see at each competition. So it
Totally.
makes more sense when you're there and you see it.
Yeah.
So now you're competing and you're getting ready for a show. You don't actually even have any, there's no control over the outcome because we already know who the top five are going to be.
Yeah. I think like I've had like I've been around it so long, so have you. And I've had girlfriends of mine, go on. They put. I had one girlfriend put her entire, like, all of her energy, her heart and soul into turning pro, and she did it. She did it. She accomplished it. She went to the right political coach to work with in the States, even though she was a Canadian. She did everything that was asked of her. She got up on that pro stage and she got that last call out. Then she's like, that carrot's dangled. Well, okay, if I got last call out this time, like, what's going to happen next time? If I do it one more time, like, what'll happen? Goes back, makes the changes that they ask of her. Same outcome. My bikini pro, Shannon Creekmore, she's placed as high as, like, I think the Portland Classic, she was 1 point away from first place. Okay. And her take home payment for that show was like $350. Her membership for the year is however much, a few hundred. Her travel to get down there, her, everything that goes along with it, it's all expensive. She loves it. That's what makes it beautiful for her. That's what makes it obtainable for her. She doesn't use drugs. She doesn't do anything crazy. She's rode the patient's pony. She's metabolically in a great place. But at the end of the day, she can go on stage and she can be in first call out one weekend, 2 weeks later, not have drastic changes to her physique, be under a whole other judging panel and be in that last call out. And, we've had that, her and I've had to have that conversation. And, like, remember what our coach used to say, champ one day, chump the next. And so when you are a pro, it is prestigious. Yes, you are the pinnacle and you deserve to be there. And that's a really big accomplishment. Can't take that away from anyone. But to think that it's not going to cost you money, or you're going to be making lots of money, or the deals are just going to be like screaming at you. Like, even these girls who do get supplement sponsorships, like, you'd be kind of weirded out to find out that a lot of them are just getting discounts on their supplements, or they're getting free supplements in the mail. They're not getting cut these big paychecks like you see in other sports like UFC or anything like that, where it's big dollars. Because while it is a mainstream look, it's not a mainstream industry in that sense that these supplement companies are going to pick a bikini girl over an athlete. We still have other athletics that people are choosing from, and supplement sponsorships are just like one entity of it. They're not everything of it. I mean, we've got other ways, girls are like, what other ways are they, like, selling themselves online? Like, what else are they selling? They're selling clothing lines.
High waisted yoga pants, right?
Yeah, got lots of that. I mean, there's probably 20 brands of that I see going through my gram, and I see them all like clones in the gym. It's pretty funny, actually. It's like they're all looking the same. I get it. It's like it gives you that sense of belonging. I totally get it. But what is happening is all of this is coming at a cost, and it's coming at the cost of these girls' pockets and their health. And I think, like, that's where the danger lies. And that's why we want to do this video series, is just being open, because girls are going to compete no matter what we say, right? Like, they're still going to, like, they're probably going to be very interested to hear what we have to say. And they'll be like, oh, no, that doesn't really apply to me, until it applies to them. And this is always like my favorite conversation that I have. And I've been kind of well known for, I'll put on these retreat weekends or these event weekends or whatever with clients, and they'll show up, and, like, these girls are like, they're coming with the intent they're going to learn everything they can about competing, right? They want to compete, or this time they're going to compete and it's going to be better this time. It's going to be a better way. And then we get talking and I'm like, what is your burning factor? Like, what makes you want to do this? And a lot of the times the reasons why they're saying they want to do this are, list them for me, Lori. Why do girls want to compete?
Well, they want to win. They want to be known. They want to be a part of the community. They want it. They want their name to be known. They want to get a sponsorship. It's a cult following. It really is.
And they want to change their bodies and do it different this time. This time they're going to prep and they're going to have a perfect post-show dismount that they're going to be able to maintain a physique long term. This is like my number one pet peeve that like coaching competitors, we're 4 to 6 weeks out. Client checks in and the question comes in. Do you think that when the show is over, we can reverse me out to just here and I can stay here? I get that all the time. I'm thinking of like one client that I had who was insistent, absolutely insistent that they were wanting to reverse diet out to be optimal off season, to stay in shape. And then it comes out later that they're struggling in the reverse and they're not having a good time. And it's like, your body wasn't meant to be there, but your mandate at me, the coach, is keep me looking this way because that's going to make me happy. But then in turn, you're not happy. So then it's a problem. So staying contest lean, even 4 to 6 weeks out, that's not realistic.
Mm-mm. It's not realistic. None of those images are realistic. And that's the problem, is girls are seeing how someone looks,
Yeah.
or how someone's forcing themselves to look, and they think that that's realistic to be long term. And it's not. You're not getting periods. You're a mess mentally. But we're selling it on social media that, oh, look at so and so pro, or the top national girl, whatever it might be, she stays that way. But they don't realize that she's miserable, and she has no social life, and she has no sex drive, and her hair's falling out, and she's won't put on the bikini because she still is wrestling with her body image. But we are seeing girls aspire to that. Like, they think they can be that 24/7.
And I think like part of it is social media and what is marketed out there, and I can be at fault for that too. Like I always show a client who can eat, like look at, I had this one client and unfortunately she passed away about 4 years ago. Lovely lady. She turned pro in the WBFF. And Melanie Starr, she was awesome. I call her Melanie the Macronator. She could eat exceptional amounts of food and look the part. I had to feed this girl into the show. And like, if you looked at the genetics of her parents, you could understand why she looks the way that she does, right? You also look at her sport growing up. She did martial arts. Like there was a lot to Melanie that was more than just, well, Melanie can eat 2,500 calories and get ready for her show. And Melanie doesn't have to do any cardio, or Melanie only has to walk a couple times a week. So I'm just as at fault for that marketing. And I did that back like 2014, 2013, because I really wanted everybody to feel like, hey, you can achieve this without having to die. But the reality of it is that there is very few and far between women with the metabolic genetics to be able to obtain that look, to be competitive without going to an extreme deficit, because the body's not meant to be there. So, and so we got this marketing thing going on. We have a lot of male coaches that do not have uteruses or ovaries giving advice, drug advice to women. Okay. We're not talking men that have any PhD or endocrinology, like nothing. We are talking like some of them don't even have basic personal training or nutritionist under their title, giving women cocktail and diet advice. So, and let's not even get into the whole dog and pony show where we have like in the pro ranks, we have girls who hire a certain coach behind the scenes, but use another for their name, or women that are being forced to send nudes to male coaches. Like it makes me irate. And so like whenever something is like so like this to me, then I know it's time to place my energy where it belongs. And that is in serving women and helping them in this aftermath, in the off season and the post show, and leave the prep to people like you and Shannon who still have the passion for it. I think that's where, for me, the more I learned, the less passion I had. And the last time I competed was 2016. I went to the IFBB North Americans. I looked my best. I looked better than I did when I won the Canadians in 2008, hands down. And you know what? I still did what I needed to do to be competitive. So I'm like backstage with these girls, and I'm like, these aren't even girls. This is crazy. The room is freezing cold and I'm trying to get a pump. I can't get a pump. And I'm looking at these girls who are jacked, like jacked, jacked, jacked. And I already think I'm jacked, right? And their veins popping everywhere and they're full. And I'm like, how is this happening? And it's because it's gone so far with the drug culture that it's so crazy. We're talking figure competitors that use tren, that use like they're using testosterone, they're using proviron, like they are eradicating estrogen from their bodies, like they're completely morphing. And it's like, so for me, after I saw that, because I kind of removed myself a bit from like the industry here and there, like every couple of years, like maybe I'll do a show, maybe I won't, um, try this, try that. And I just was like backstage and I was like, you know what, I'm not like, my passion isn't in this. And then 2 years ago, I had like this like not a big group. I've never had a massive client load of competitors, but I had quite a predominant amount of competitors in my coaching roster. And I felt like there was just like so much stress and I was feeling anxious all the time. And like the girls would want me to be excited about their suits. They'd want me to be excited and about their progress, or like turn me into a pro, or like be my cheerleader. And I was like, I can't, like, I can't from an integrity viewpoint, like be like, wow, yes, let's do whatever it takes, turn you into a pro, and let's not be patient. And, you know, like I just couldn't align with it anymore. So what I did was I stopped doing the posing and the presentation work with my clients. Like I removed myself from that aspect of it. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just do the training and the nutrition and the mindset, and I won't have anything to do with that. And then I kept doing it in that way where I'm just doing mindset, training, and nutrition. And then I'm watching the mindset of these girls and I'm like, this isn't jiving either, because like your priorities are backwards. You're barking at me. You're barking at the world. You're quitting your job. You're like doing whatever it takes. And you're not necessarily always being a great human being. And I'm endorsing this for you. I can't be alongside that and be like, wow, I helped you, you know, rebound post show. I helped you feel crappy about yourself post show, even though maybe your prep wouldn't be nearly as harsh as somebody else. It's still not aligning with what I believe in. And so, like, serving people, I'm not serving you, taking you to the stage. I'm serving you, helping you afterwards, but I'm not serving you in that process, because I can't get on board with believing that this is going to serve you well. And I think like once I got okay with that, and you and I have had many conversations about that aspect, and we'll dive more into that another day. But 2019 was like big turning point for me. I was like, I came into this not wanting to coach competitors. Now I'm stressed out about competitors. I'm laying in a hospital bed and I'm stressed out about competitors. And what the heck just happened? My life just flashed before my eyes, like literally. And I'm stressed out about competitors. I didn't get into this to do this. So what is the solution? And so I've just spent the last year and a half trying to get okay with being okay with like, I don't want to be a part of that. And you know, you and I've had many conversations about it, and it took a lot of like thinking and negotiating with myself, because yeah, there's a financial end of it that is coaching competitors. Yeah, you can make money, you know, and people say like, well, you're good at it, keep doing it, you make money. Like, but if you're not feeling good about it and you're losing your integrity with it, then what is it for? And I guess that was I just came to that point, you know. So
Well, you almost died too. So when you when you almost die, and you had a few things happen too. I mean, you were almost dying, and it was almost that there was competitors in your face wondering why you weren't giving your all to them
yeah,
at the moment where you've got the light and you're on your way out of this world, and they're wondering why you're not focused on their glutes and how awesome they look. So
yeah,
you had a few experiences where it was like enough is enough.
Yeah.
when you come back from that, it's easy to say, no, I'm done. I've hit my limit now, and here's my direction. You kind of had that light of, okay, I don't want to do this anymore.
Well, and like to touch on that briefly, like going into, I had to have surgery. I was ill for months leading into my surgery. Um, Basically got to the point where like I was hardly able to walk. I wasn't working out. I had like really bad pelvic congestion. So I had hypertension, I had huge amounts of bloating, like discomfort, like it goes on and on and on. So going into the surgery, I had already had to place boundaries within my coaching. Like I couldn't go into the gym and train with the girls anymore. I couldn't even go to the gym sometimes. I didn't some days even have the energy to be their cheerleader anymore. And what happened with that is that the girls who needed more of like that, the coaching, like to me, coaching has become far more involved than it should be, right? So while I laid my boundaries down, it became very uncomfortable for people that needed me to be everything for them, right? The believer in them, the person who's checking on them every day. So as I was going in for surgery, I was stressed out. I was trying to make sure all my clients were taken care of. I had clients messaging me photos of themselves as I'm going in for surgery saying like, I hope this makes your day. And like, I'm already thinking in my head, like, okay, like this is very important for them that I believe in them, but right now I really have to take care of myself. So then I'm in surgery, I start having major post-op complications. There's drama going on with client leaving and needing to post it that day. And then I find out that this other coach that this client went to is like posting derogatory things about me and my work ethic while I'm like recovering from major surgery. Like I'm in the hospital and I'm on my laptop, and I'm not blaming these girls. I'm saying, like, for me, the boundaries were very hard for me to set because I wanted to serve people so much that I wasn't taking care of myself. Instead of shutting my phone off, instead of saying, no, I'm not going to deal with that today, I wanted to help these girls so bad because I didn't want them to go down a bad path that I couldn't separate myself from it. Right. So there I am in the hospital. I've got a blood clot. I've got massive infection. I end up 2 weeks to the date of the surgery having massive hemorrhaging. Like basically what happened was my inside spilled out and I was rushed in for trauma surgery. And I woke up from that surgery. It's taken me like, I've only started to feel good like within the last few months, physically good, right? Like let's just put it this way, my bowels came out of my body. Like it was massive trauma. But while I'm trying to recover from that trauma, I'm still dealing with the drama of the fact that I'm not giving what these girls want. And I think like for me, it was so disappointing and so hurtful. And then to see like this coach who's never known me from a hole in the ground making comments about work ethic, like just to create a image that he was a better coach after working with this person for like a week or two, it really just set me in this place like that's yucky. Like that's not, that doesn't feel good. And I think that's another part of it that really kind of turns me off is this cattiness among coaches, this cattiness. We are now we are now competing for who's the bigger, better coach, who has the better team. Like even some of the shows now have a prize for whose clients win the most amount. So like we're gone away from like serving people and being honest with them and saying like, you know what? Yeah, you can go that route, but I could help you with this. It's going to take us longer and you're going to have to be patient. It's going to test your ego, but I have your best interest at heart. And we're kind of going away from that. And I feel like in order for me to be at peace within the industry and still be in the industry, I have to remove myself from any of that kind of garbage, you know, like that's just not, I mean, the last show I attended, there was a coach downstairs that I didn't even know was like telling my girls that they had bad tans and they were green. And my girls come upstairs and they're they're demoralized. And I had no idea what was going on. I had left the room. So like I didn't know what was happening. So there I am, and I'm trying to like pump them up, like, hey, get out there, get out there. But in turn of me pumping them up, I'm offending somebody else that thinks that I'm trying to pump my clients up more to put them off. And then it turns into this like big drama fest that has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that my clients feel crappy about themselves because as they're about to step out on stage, somebody told them that they're green or their tans are bad and that they're fat. Like that to me is just like, I, it makes me sick to my stomach that people don't get that this is not about the coaches. This is not about whether you turn pro or not. This is supposed to be about self-expression, and somehow the self-expression part is gone and it's about oppression, and I can't handle it. Like, ugh.
It, it's very high school as well. It's like that drama. I think we've talked about it before too. You coming from gymnastics, I come from
Yeah.
swimming. Coaches never bashed each other. We didn't. We were always very supportive of one
Yes.
another. There was
Yeah.
always, even years ago, coaching. I mean, you and I left a really high
Yeah.
level coach.
Yeah.
And no matter what he did to us, because he was doing it to us in terms of damage and extremes
Yeah.
and whatever, I never would have bashed him when I left to go to a new coach or whatever. It it was not how it is now. Now you see it on social media and it's
Yeah.
putting you down, but it's kind of like in a sociopathic way. Like I'm gonna passively aggressively put that coach down. And we never used to do that. We didn't. It just wasn't. You can leave a coach. Hey, it's great. That was a great experience. I'm moving on to somebody new.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be this bullying on the internet like we're seeing and
Well,
making up stuff about
yeah.
old coaches.
Or yeah, making up stuff. And I think this is the thing too, is like then it comes into like this whole, and we'll have to wrap this up because the video will cut out soon, but like the whole insecurity aspect of that feeds into this is like everything becomes about me. So what you say is about me. My meals are about me. My training is about me. My inability to work or think is about me. And it's so me, me, me. And I think like at a certain point, as you get older or things in life happen, you don't get to be in that me, me state. And I grew up in a sport where it didn't get to be all about me. I'm training at a high level with 10 other women who are equally or more talented than I am. And I'm not sitting there complaining, coach isn't giving me enough attention, or coach said that and that offended me. I'm going, how can I be better? What do I need to do to be a better gymnast? And coach is giving me this advice. I'm not thinking about what everybody else is doing. And that's where we have gone so sideways. We call it a sport, but I'm wondering what the sport is, because sport to me is passion. It's training. Like these girls don't even like their training half the time. They don't even, they're just training for a category, you know?
Mhm.
My coach growing up in gymnastics looked to other coaches for inspiration, didn't look to other coaches to compete with them. You know, like there's so much that has sort of gone backwards. And like I said, when something doesn't align for me in my life anymore, it's like, let's not try to force it and make it fake. Like, let's move on to what does align, and helping girls in this aftermath, which I like said in the beginning of the video, I see it coming a mile away. And sometimes, you know, my mistake is I will say to a girl who is ready to coach hop and go to that coach, like, I know what's going to happen for you, you know, and maybe I shouldn't say that, but it's like, it's hard not to, because you
Mhm.
care. Like I care. When I say I'm going into surgery and I'm still messaging my clients, it's because I actually genuinely care about them. I care about their families. I care about their balance. I care about everything that's going into them, not just whether or not they win a trophy. That's like an icing on the cake. That's cool. But like who they are as a human being, like I'm way more satisfied to hear you put on your bathing suit, you took a vacation, you're eating freely, you're not tracking your macros, like that makes me feel good. And so when it feels good, that's where you got to go, right?
Mhm.
So you're going to keep coaching competitors, Lori.
You know what? And I did go through this phase that you're going through, and you might make your way back. I honestly think
Never say never.
It's never say never. And I was there a few years ago, and then I've kind of transitioned my business to where I am a mama bear. I feel like I am still saving as many people from the terrible methods as possible.
Yeah.
As well, I'm like you, I know how to come out of it, whereas a lot of coaches don't know how to come out of it. If there is that girl that I do have to take a little lower calorie, or I do have to give a little more cardio than I like to,
Yeah.
I know how to bring her out of it. Whereas there's a lot of coaches give the drug stacks and say, see you later, and don't bring the girls out of it.
Right.
They give the insane amounts of cardio, they give the starvation, and then say, see you later to them after. So at least in my mind, I can still do it and know that most of my clients don't need to go to those extremes. It's just not necessary.
Yeah.
There's either myself to bring them out of it, or there is someone like you that is there to bring them out of it.
Right.
So I can still keep in the industry, maybe save a few of these women
Yeah.
from the madness,
Yeah.
and make it a little less painful.
For sure, for sure. And I think that that's great. And I think in our next video, we'll dive a little bit more into the drug culture. We'll dive into post contest, and we'll talk about what post contest really looks like, what to expect, methods for coming out of post contest, and we'll dive more into that nitty gritty. Like, we have to wrap up now, otherwise the video is going to cut us off. But what we would love to hear from you guys is if you have anything that you want us to talk about. Like, Lori and I are set to do a series with this. We're probably going to bring on some of our friends as well. We have lots of friends in the industry that have the same vibes and feels that we do about it. They're just quieter than we are. But if you have anything you want us to discuss, send a DM, send a message, send an email. My email address is metabolismcoaching@gmail.com. What's your email address, Lori?
Lori Mork at shaw.ca.
Perfect. And if you need competition prep coaching, you can contact either of us. I'll send you in the direction of people that I trust, such as Lori and my girl Shannon. And if you need off-season help, come talk to me. Post-contest help. You're stuck in the monkey brain. I'm here for you. So we'll sign off. And that was fun. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.